Iga, big bad Iga. And we are talking about integrity and rules. You guys have been asking me to discuss this. Let's go. As always, this video is brought to you via the Doctrine of Fair Use, the Fair Dealing, and the Digital Millennium Act. Iga Swiatek, the world's #2, Madison Keys, the now newly crowned Australian Open champion. However, guys, after the conclusion of the second set, before starting the third set, we saw Madison Keys just come out just playing with a fire we haven't seen in a while, intensity. Despite dropping the first set 7-5, she would actually serve a breadstick to Iga Swiatek. That's right, the bakery was closed that day. 6-1 in the second set. Madison Keys would win the second set, multiple breaks, dominating the second set. And in the words of Justine Henin, Hall of Famer, right, one of the greats to ever do it, she stated that Iga Swiatek seemed intimidated. It seemed like she was scared of Madison Keys' power. And that would lead to the drama. After the conclusion of the second set, where we saw Iga Swiatek lose 62% of her first serves. Oh, my goodness. 100% of her second serves. Oh, my goodness. And Madison Keys 4 for 6 on breakpoint opportunities, 9 winners to 3, nearly twice as fewer unforced errors in Iga Swiatek. And she got the job done, winning 100% of the net points before the start of the third set. After a long bathroom break, Iga Swiatek would come out. Madison Keys is waiting to serve, right? And we saw in a match previously against Emma Raducanu where Iga Swiatek was given a time violation before the match even started. So after a long bathroom break before the start of the third set, Iga Swiatek, while Madison Keys is on the line ready to serve, would just go into her, what I would call her best impersonation of Nadal, just swinging at the air while Keys is on the line ready to serve. And then while Madison is like, okay, are we going to play a match here? The umpire had already called time, then holds up her racket to delay Madison Keys further. Now, listen, you guys have been calling for me to discuss these actions, because I've been one of the few tennis channels online discussing Iga Swiatek and her integrity for the game, her respect for her opponents and fans, and the rules, right? We all know what the rule book says. The speed of the game should be determined by the player serving. That's right. Not the player returning. So if you are returning, if you are defending, and you are holding up your opponent, that is a violation of the rules. It's breaking the rules. Okay. Do we want to go as far as to say it's cheating? Look, when you break the rules, we understand that can be considered cheating. So Iga Swiatek, with millions watching, thousands in attendance, continued to show disrespect to the fans and her opponent. And everyone's talking about it. I've received several comments like, hey, good energy, are you going to discuss this? Why? Because I've been the channel that have been discussing this. Let's go back to 2022, guys. Let's go back. That's right. We're going to go back on the win streak. Germany, the Porsche Grand Prix. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Why are we going there? Because that's where I started to notice things got to a boiling point. And look, there's previous matches, but this is where I noticed that someone finally stood up to Iga Swiatek. And that person was Ludmilla, ladies and gentlemen. A lot on the line here, right? The 21-match win streak, right? Remember, guys, Iga Swiatek, she won Doha. She won the Indian Wells and Miami. And my famous quote, this is a soundbite. Iga Swiatek made the Sunshine Double look like a routine day at the beach. Bars, ladies and gentlemen. the 21 match win streak on the line. Do we want to go over the hit list? I guess I could. And the 27 set win streak on the line. We saw Iga Swiatek and Ludmila get into it. Ludmila was fired up, and it seemed like she wanted to fight Iga Swiatek. Now, she would end that 27-set win streak by winning the first set in a tiebreak. Ludmila was in control for most of the second set. And then, a short ball, just a ball where Iga Swiatek, look, she apologized, she put her hands up. Ludmila gave her a stare down, and it seemed like Ludmila wanted to fight Iga Swiatek. Now, listen, watching that match, the announcers called it, I called it. Iga Swiatek was holding up Ludmila, doing a lot of things, and then I called it, right? I spoke upon it. She beat Emma Raducanu 6-4, 6-4 in the quarterfinal of the previous match. But I talked about some of the things that I started to notice. And as a competitor, as someone that's played athletics my entire life at a high level, I always say that you kind of notice the players that do things that really want to win. And you kind of question, hey, look, if you're doing this with fans watching, let's go back to San Diego, Donna Vekic, championship match, right? Iga Swiatek does jumping jacks in the middle of a rally. That's breaking the rules. It's against the rule book. That's not a tennis move. It's a violation of the rules. And I talked about, when players start to do things like that with fans watching, what are they doing when no one's watching? Right. And I've talked about in the past, people want to win. Players want to win. But where do you draw the line? Right. And I've talked about just myself personally. If I can't beat someone, if I'm not good enough to win, then it is what it is. As long as I give my best, I'm okay with that. Despite, I don't care how many sponsors, endorsements, how much money's involved. If I give my best, my natural efforts, and I can't beat you and I can't win, I just have to accept that. You're the better player. You deserve what you're going to get and what comes with being the better opponent. All right. Let's go to, the U.S. Open, right? That same year. Let's talk about Julia Niemeyer. A lot of stuff in that match. That was a horrible match. Now, Julia, she won the first set 6-2. She had that match. She was up in the second set. There was a lot of holding up going on in that match, a lot of grabbing towels, a lot of stuff. I said, this is not good. This is not sportsmanlike, right? Let's go to the quarterfinal with Pegula. A lot of stuff going on in that match. Jessica was asked about it in the post-match interview. She didn't see it. She didn't notice it, right? The argument with Nooney, one of the most respected chair umpires in the business. Unreal, ladies and gentlemen. And he wasn't having it. He gave Iga Swiatek a violation. Ons in the championship match. Switching your racket while Ons is serving, unreal. Now, we saw Mary Jo, who, by the way, Mary Jo doesn't hold back, and she speaks her mind, and she said, look, who does that? Who would do that? I've never seen anyone do that. She switched out her racket while Ons is literally trying to win the second set to extend this match. That was really disrespectful. And Ons was asked about it. Ons said, I didn't notice. I didn't see it. Much like Pegula did in the previous round. Taking the classy road, just avoiding the controversy. Classy ladies here. Back to the Australian Open here. And again, should I go over the hit list? In question of that 21 match win streak? Nah, I won't go over the hit list. But listen, ladies and gentlemen. Back to this match here, the Australian Open. Iga Swiatek, after losing the second set, I think Justine, she put it perfectly. She said Iga Swiatek was scared of Keys' power. And you kind of felt that, right? And I talked about how the players in Saudi Arabia, they were asked the question, a short survey, a short poll. What player do you think plays the most mind games on tour? Or should I say of all the players there? And the consensus was Iga Swiatek. And I've talked about it in the past, the countless times of holding her opponent up, breaking the rules, because we know what the rule book says. I'll say it again, right? The speed of the match is based on the server's racket. You have to be ready to play with the server. You can't hold up the server because that takes away their advantage. We all know, if you ever played sports, the offensive player has the advantage because they know where they want to go. If you are slowing up the offensive player before the play starts, that's not right, And I think that Iga's done that for too long now. The world's finally starting to notice, but this is what I've noticed. Iga doesn't care at this point. I think she enjoys playing the villain. This is my opinion, right? We're entitled to our own opinion. This is my fair criticism from watching her play. I think she just doesn't care anymore, right? She's had a doping scandal that she's survived, right? The ITIA, they've ruled that it wasn't her fault, cross-contamination. She's in the clear. She's not a doper. But I feel she doesn't care. She's already taken the worst press. How much worse can it get? How much better can it get? It won't get any worse. And I feel her actions here, and you guys have told me to make a video on this. You told me to discuss this because I've been online talking about this for years. Iga holds her opponents up. She does small things. She's wiping her sweat, grabbing her towel, holding her racket, tying her shoe. She does a lot of things that slows down the momentum of your opponent. And the reality is, when you're playing tennis, if you can get the mental edge, you can have an advantage in the match. And I feel she's, for one, good enough to not have to do this kind of stuff. But I also feel that her stamina needs improvement. This is my fair criticism. This is my criticism. This is what I see from watching her play. Her stamina is not good. So she's also trying to catch her breath. And this is why I've said I don't think Iga plays past 30. And I think once Iga starts to lose consistently on clay, I think she'll hang it up early. Iga stated that she cannot and she would not play through another scandal. She said if another scandal happened like this with the recent ITIA scandal, she said she doesn't think she could handle it. Meaning she'd probably walk away from the sport. She said that she was under so much, and allegedly, right? But this is what I've read from other interviews, allegedly, that she doesn't love tennis that much to go through this type of situation again, right? She stated that, all of the bad press and all of the feelings she's experiencing is coming from tennis. And she's like, I don't love tennis that much, allegedly. This is what she said to other outlets. Now, my personal opinion, like I said, I don't think she plays past 30, but I think she's slowing down. I think she's bottom heavy. I think she's, with Win Facet, they're working on just being a better rally player, better shot making ability. But my personal opinion is I think Iga Swiatek needs to have a little bit more respect for her opponents and the fans and the game. Now, we talk about Sabalenka and her actions just being childish, immature. But where do we draw the line with Iga Swiatek? And this is where I want you guys to comment. I want you guys to come into the comment section, comment below. We have other tournaments, Singapore, the Upper Links. I want to discuss those as well, but I've been asked to comment on this situation, and I'm giving you my personal opinion. My personal opinion, this is my fair criticism. I think Iga has to do better. I think the world is watching. It's no secret. I think she was able to kind of get away with it, and it was swept under the rug when she was number one and winning so much and generating so much revenue for the organization, that now she's number two. Other players are starting to creep up and play better. That now the tour is kind of starting to thrive and get to a point where the fans are speaking up, right? A lot of fans have come online and they're like, Iga's actions are unacceptable, especially when you're facing someone like Madison Keys, who's regarded, in my opinion, as one of the classiest players on tour. You never see her upset. She's graceful and classy in defeat, and she's just on the line waiting. And it doesn't help that Madison Keys won despite this. I think Iga Swiatek, if you take her into 3 long sets, her fatigue starts to show. If you extend the rallies, make her play, use her footwork, because the first 5-6 shots of the rally, she's expending a lot of energy, a lot of power. So if you can survive that early onslaught, take her into 2-3 sets, she's going to fade and get really tired. Despite that, she had a chance to win this match, right? She was up several mini breaks in the third set tiebreak. She was up a break, had the chance to serve it out. But you can clearly see that Iga stamina, it's not that of someone like a Coco, right? We know Iga has stamina issues. This is my personal opinion because watching her play, she's always holding up her opponent. Why? You know it's a tennis match. The rule states, the play is dictated by the server. So if you're returning and you're constantly holding up your opponent, you're either doing it because you're tired, you don't have respect for the fans or your opponent, or you're looking to get an edge. That's my opinion. It's got to be one of the three. Why else are you always not ready when it comes to defending? And the fan state, from what I read and what they've told me, is they just think that Iga Swiatek doesn't have respect for her opponents. Now, this is where Danny Mel comes into play. And Danielle Collins gets a lot of heat. We all know that, for being outspoken, speaking her mind. And this is where Iga Swiatek, she's swinging her racket in the air while Keys is ready to serve after a bathroom break. Now, listen, guys, Nadal would do this a lot. We all know Iga Swiatek, her idol's Nadal. Great guy, Hall of Famer. But I didn't agree with a lot of the antics that Nadal did. I didn't like him, wiping your sweat with your sweatbands like 17 times, returning, holding up your opponent. I didn't like the things that Nadal did, and quite frankly, a lot of people like him. Nadal was not one of my favorite players. I think he's an all-time great, but I would put Novak above him. I would put Roger above him, just for a lot of those reasons. And a lot of the male players have complained about Nadal. They're on record complaining about him. It's no secret, right? And me too. But this is where Iga Swiatek, she's swinging her racket in the air. She's not ready. Now, okay, let's play devil's advocate, right? We want to be fair. She just came from a bathroom break. She needs to get loose, right? She's got to make sure she's ready for this rally. She's got to be ready to return, right? Am I being fair? Give her a chance there. But listen, guys, you're also in a match with thousands of fans and millions watching. There's a time limit for the bathroom break. You have to be ready on the line to play the third and final set. Where's the consideration? So I want you guys to comment below in the comments. Let me know, what do you think? I mean, not necessarily as bad as Sabalenka, or is it? Now, it's two different extremes, right? One player slamming her racket, leaving the court, saying bad remarks about her camp, but then recalling them and, acting like it's a joke. And then you have another player, again, two elite players, two top-ranked players, who is holding up their opponent constantly, has been doing it for several years. Which one's worse, guys? I'm asking for your opinion. My opinion is I think Sabalenka is resorting back to her old childish ways. I think she's getting older. She should show a lot more respect and class and grace for her opponents. And I think she needs to do better. She's a millionaire. She's making millions of dollars from the fans. Keep in mind, guys, we work for people. We work for the people. Without the people, we all have nothing. And she needs to understand we all have nothing without the people. Okay, so those fits, you have to you have to get it in gear. You have to check yourself because it's clear that no one in her camp is checking her. So she has to have enough awareness and sense to understand what she's doing is wrong. She doesn't have a mental health coach anymore. She said she fired her Sabalenka, this is. She said she figured out that anything she needs to deal with and get through and get better at, she is responsible for that, and she will be the one that has to make sure she progresses as a person. So she's felt that a mental coach can't really help her with that. She needs to do that. But right now we see her kind of resorting back to the Sabalenka of a few years ago, and that's not good either. While Iga Swiatek, on the other hand, has a mental coach, travels with her all the time, and the reality here is I think Iga is starting to like being the villain because some of these things she's doing on purpose. She's aware, she's conscious, she knows that she's doing them, and she knows that they're probably not necessarily right to her opponent, but I don't think she cares anymore. I think she's at a stage where it's about her, and this is my personal opinion. I think she feels it's about her. She's number 2 in the world. She's been number 1 in the world for 125 weeks, right? Something like that. I think she feels she's a big deal. And she is a big deal, right? She's important for the sport, but I don't think anyone is bigger than the sport, right? All the greats have eventually worn out. They've eventually retired. Father Time is undefeated. I think Iga's got to keep that in mind, right? Because how does she want her legacy to be remembered? As the person as the player, the Hall of Fame player that won 5 or more Grand Slams, but constantly bent the rules a little bit. The player that won 5 or more Grand Slams, but always held up her opponent. You don't want to be remembered by that, right? So start just acknowledging and being conscientious and aware of your legacy that you've worked so hard for. You don't want to ruin that because the fans are online and they're noticing what you're doing and they don't approve of it. They don't like it. All right. So comment below, guys. What do you think? Who's worse, Iga or Sabalenka right now? Because they're hanging out, they're training, they're doing drills before matches. They're buddies now, I guess, allegedly. But comment below. I want to hear what you guys think. But Madison Keys, she won the match anyway. So does it even matter? All right. Tennis in a minute. We'll be back, guys.